Hi everyone, welcome back to Intro to Philosophy. Um, if you can't tell, the maskne is still there, still getting to me. Um, it's not important, but every time I turn on the camera, I'm like, oh, it's not great. But anyways, I hope that everyone is doing well. And I was thinking about it, and y'all just turned in your week 11 summaries, and there's only, like, if you look on the syllabus, it goes up to week 17 because of finals, but that doesn't really count as a week. So, and then Thanksgiving doesn't count as a week. So, really, we have like 4 weeks left, which is kind of awesome. Um, I'm still grading your papers, and I'm really sorry that it's taking so long. I feel really bad about it, but um, I I don't know why I read so slow, but I'm working on it. And, I've learned my lesson to, uh, yeah, start ASAP and really dive in because now, like, oh my gosh, it's way too long. It's been way too long. So, I'm definitely over halfway done. I have like a quarter left. So, hopefully, in the next couple days, we'll be done. And then I can grade all of your critical summaries that I haven't been grading because of the papers. So, sorry about that. That's totally on me. Time management. I'm working on it. Yeah, so we're moving. Last week was like metaphysics slash ethics. It was kind of an in between section about free will because it kind of deals with both. But this week we're diving straight into ethics, and we'll do ethics for this week and next, and then we will end the semester with political philosophy. Today, when you're watching this, the um, is election day, so that's important. Especially in a class like this where you're supposed to be thinking about important things. I hope that you vote if you haven't already. Um, One thing that I think is kind of funny that I've never really understood is like the incessant encouragement to vote. Like, I don't know, super liberal people or super conservative people will be like, you have to vote, everybody get out and vote. And it's like, they probably don't really want the people who disagree with them to vote. Like, there's no way that they actually want that. So, anyways, I try not to be quite like that because I understand that if you're voting a certain way, then you want other people to vote the same way as you. And if they're not going to, then you probably don't want them to vote. That's kind of how I view it. So I'm not, gonna throw a fit that everyone should vote, but it is important. And, you live here, and yeah, it's hard, especially in the times we live, but it is what it is. So, anyways, it's kind of timely that we're doing abortion today, talking about abortion this week, because it has a lot to do with the election. I mean, not that anything will probably change, like overturning Roe v. Wade or anything. That probably won't happen. You never know, but it's still like something that motivates voters like crazy. And especially like our age group with social media and stuff, like the drastic shift in views of abortion since I've been alive is kind of insane. It went from, whenever I was a kid and stuff, like most people thought it was bad. And, now you get on Instagram, you see, I think it was Miley Cyrus who posted a cake that said abortion is healthcare. And it's widely accepted by, I don't know, the media and, especially people our age, I think. like talking to my family and stuff, it's a little bit different. Older people have different views of it because they were alive when most people considered it to be a bad thing. So anyways, I'm just saying all this because I think it's interesting. We live in a time where people's positions are changing so fast, so rapidly. So it's always important to dive in and really see what you think about this topic. So today we're looking at Judith Jarvis Thompson's position on abortion. She gives it away in the title, A Defense of Abortion. And so whenever I was in undergrad, I don't know if y'all have experienced this, but I had professors that were like, please, you can write about anything, but don't write about abortion, because it's the same arguments over and over again. And pretty much, if you have an opinion on it, like, you're not going to be easily swayed. Like, it's not something that you really want to change your mind about. So if you write a paper about it, it's going to be a pretty dogmatic response. If you're for abortion, then you will talk about cases of rape. And if you're against abortion, then you will say that that an unborn fetus is a human being. Those are the arguments that are made. So there was like a time in undergrad and kind of in high school where they were just like, I literally don't want to talk about it anymore. And I think like that makes sense. But now I think we have a lot of people that have a view on it without ever having read actual arguments for or against. So I think it's super important and helpful to read both this one and the one that we'll talk about for next time, just to get like, okay, what's the philosophy behind this? What are the arguments behind this? What's the motivation? And then really figure out where you land, because it's not easy. I mean, it may be like, oh, it's a no-brainer for me. But considering all sides, like, if you are against abortion, it's like rape is a hard case. That's just true for anybody. Wait, did I say? Yeah, if you're against abortion, rape is a hard case to deal with. And if you're for abortion, then thinking about like, okay, then when is not okay? That's hard. Like after the baby borns, after the baby is born, like, is it all of a sudden a human being right out of the womb and it wasn't 2 seconds before? Like, that's also hard. So either way, I think it's really important to go into it knowing like, this is hard. This is hard for most people. And it's easy to construct like a soundbite view, you know, like Miley Cyrus's Cake. I think it was her. I keep saying that, but I think it was her. I'm not 100%. It's easy to just throw that out, but it's a little bit harder to be questioned about it. So, and it's easy to just be like, a fetus is a human. Say no more, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of my spiel about why it's important. This piece by Thompson, I read in undergrad, and it was the first really argument that I read about abortion, because most of it is just like I gave a speech about abortion in like, I don't know, 8th grade or something, but I wasn't reading like a true argument. It was just people giving like, yeah, it's bad, or yeah, it's good, or whatever. People don't normally say it's good, but you know. So whenever I read this, I was like, oh, like, yeah, this is worth really thinking about and spending time on and considering. Like, she makes good examples. They're incredibly famous. The violinist example is like what she's known for because it was so influential. So, yeah. And I think I'm kind of just chatting with you for a sec. But even considering like papers and stuff, like the papers that y'all just wrote or the papers that you will write for the end of the semester, coming into a difficult topic with an understanding that it's a difficult topic is probably the best thing that you can do in philosophy. If you come into a paper, you're writing a paper, and so like the last one, a lot of people wrote about the existence of God because that was what we dealt with primarily. Like, I mean, you may want to come in and be like, there's no way that God could not exist. And like, you may really feel that way. And that's, I mean, that is totally up to you and not a bad thing. But if you write in a way that's like, there's literally no way that it could be any other way than what I'm saying it is. It's a little tone deaf. It's not going to be compelling because you're not giving the other side even a fair shot. So whenever you're writing or even just talking, this is important in all of life. Not that you need to know how to live from me, but it is super important to be like, to have an understanding that these are hard, difficult questions. And like, I can relate to wanting to just be like, there's a clear answer, because I feel that way in a lot of cases. But that's not understanding other people's struggles or why people believe the way that they do, because most people have reasons, and whether you agree with them or disagree, it's important to be like, I see where you're coming from. I think you're wrong, but I see where you're coming from. That's typically where I land. I normally am not, just in the middle, like, it could be either way, who knows, which I think is also, that was another thing, like, going the other side of the spectrum, being like, I could see this being either way. Like, okay, so I would say probably the easiest thing to do when talking about difficult topics is to dive in and be like, what I believe is 100% true. Like that, I feel like that's just a natural tendency, maybe not of everyone, but of a lot of people. The other natural tendency is to dive in and be like, I can really see both sides. And that's good. Both of those things are good, but neither of them are going to help you develop your own belief systems or argue for what is right and what is good. So I saw that in papers where it was kind of like, yeah, it could go either way. It's like, I mean, that may be true, but like, what do you think is the most compelling? What convinced you? Or, yeah. Anyways, that was kind of a just chatting about life because of the election. Also, I hope that people don't feel, I mean, it's a somber time. I feel like I remember 4 years ago, I was in college for the election with Trump and Hillary Clinton. And the next day on campus was like so incredibly sad because, I don't know, people felt unsafe or they felt, I don't know, like their voice didn't matter, or they felt unheard, or they were worried about America. All of those things I think are going to be true for this time also. And it's sad. But I hope that through this class it helps you develop or strengthen a worldview that allows for sadness, but also helps you through it and helps you see the good things. And yeah, wish we could chat about it in real life maybe one day, but yeah, I hope that nobody feels like absolutely horrible about life in general, not just about the election. I hope that for everyone. all the time. Yeah. This is the type of class where things like the election stuff, like they have more weight in a class like, or we have more of a chance to talk about it in a class like this than in like algebra or something, because the way you feel about these things and the way you think about these things really pertains to philosophy. It's philosophical in nature. So I'm excited for when we get to the political philosophy section. It's going to be a little late, but it'll be fun. So yeah, enough of that. I will dive into the paper. So Judith Jarvis Thomson is still alive. She's like 91, I think. And she was born in New York City. She got her PhD from Columbia University, very smart. And she primarily worked in moral theory and, well, mostly morality, not necessarily moral theory, but contemporary philosophy, obviously, because she's in the contemporary period of philosophy. She did analytic philosophy, which is what most American philosophers do, really. So that's kind of background on her. I doubt she's teaching still if she's 91, but you never know. Maybe she just loves it. This is probably her most famous piece, because like I said, the violinist example is super famous. So the purpose of this paper is to defend abortion, as is the title. It's very easy. Love a clear title, by the way. If you can't tell from reading my comments on your papers, the clearer, the better. Like, spoil the ending at the beginning, always. It makes it super easy to follow and easy to focus on your arguments. So, all right. So she starts the paper by saying that most opposition to abortion relies on the premise that the fetus is a human being, a person, from the moment of conception. So she is going to just take that as true. I don't think that she actually believes that, but she's going to take it as true for her argument to make the best argument possible, because most of the opposition to abortion believes this claim. So if she can prove with this claim being true that their arguments against abortion don't succeed, then she's in the best spot possible. So typically the argument against abortion goes something like, every person has a right to life. The fetus is a human being, so the fetus has a right to life. And the person's right to life. So this is what she kind of adds that, well, let's see. Yeah, the pro-life position would be that a person's right to life is stronger and more stringent than the mother's right to decide what happens in and to her body. So even though, like, yes, it's your body, in a sense, there's also another body inside of your body. And so what you do to your body, you're also doing to another human being. That would be the common against abortion argument. So it would be immoral for the fetus to be killed, so the abortion should not be performed. So here comes her example, her famous example. So imagine you go to sleep, sleeping soundly. You wake up and you are back to back with, I don't know why she uses the example of a violinist. That's unclear to me, but it does the job. So you wake up and there's a violinist that's unconscious that you're back to back with, and this violinist has a fatal kidney condition. And the Society of Music Lovers has determined that you have the right blood type to help. So they have plugged in, I don't know how this works, I don't know if this is possible, they've plugged in the violinist's circulatory system to yours so that your kidneys can be used to save this man's failing kidneys. So now you wake up and you are tied to this person that you didn't want to be tied to. You didn't ask for this. And this person's going to die if you unplug yourself. So if you're like, I don't want to be attached to this person, I don't know, I didn't ask for this, I didn't sign up for it, and I don't want to, then if you unplug yourself, this person dies. This seemingly innocent person just dies. So, she would just kind of giving like try and see this as in an analogy for abortion. So you cannot ever be unplugged from him, because to unplug yourself from him would be murder. So at the end of this example, she says, I imagine you would regard this as outrageous, which suggests that something really is wrong with that plausible sounding argument I mentioned a moment ago, that every human has a right to life and you shouldn't kill humans. So this would be an example of rape, because you went to sleep I guess are you unconscious when you're sleeping? I don't know. It's not important to what I'm saying. But you go to sleep and you don't do anything to get plugged into this person. You just wake up and it's there and you have a responsibility. So it's, a pretty good example to show that this could be what a woman who is raped and becomes pregnant feels like. So, in this case, since you were kidnapped, you didn't volunteer for the operation. So, that's another way that it's analogous to rape. So, you can say that persons have a right to life only if they didn't come into existence because of rape. Or you can say that all persons have a right to life, but that some have less of a right to life than others, in particular, that those who came into existence because of rape have less of a right to life. So the against abortion person that wants to be sensitive to cases of rape can say these things, like, yes, a baby has a right to life unless it came into the world through rape. That doesn't quite sound right, because what does the way that the baby came into being have to do with its right to life? If we're focusing on the right to life of the child, it would seem that nothing really changes the right to life of the child, because either way, the child didn't do anything. An external person committed this crime, this horrible, egregious crime. So she points this out as, like, you don't really want to say that. So she lays out the extreme view of being anti-abortion, which is that abortion is impermissible even to save the mother's life. So even if a person gets pregnant and there is the chance of the mother dying because of the baby, that even if that's the case, the mother still has no right to kill the child. So she gives another example. She's very good at examples, which I think is why this has been such a compelling piece for people. Is like, if you can give a good example, you can convince people of things like crazy. That's why in your papers I always encourage examples, because it's easy for somebody to see something more concrete. So, imagine that, let me make sure I'm in the right area. Imagine that you are trapped in a tiny house, and like a tiny house, like or it's a huge child. I'm a little unsure. But maybe this room is a house. And I'm here and there is a child. And the child is growing like crazy. Like in 2 hours, it's doubled the size. Let's say 2 minutes. Let's make this even crazier. 2 minutes, it's doubled the size. In 60 minutes, it's going to take over the whole room and it's going to crush me and kill me. Do I have the right to defend myself by killing this rapidly growing child? That is the big question. Because in most cases, like if somebody came through my window right now and was going to kill me, then most people would say you have the right to self-defense. Not everyone, I don't know, but it's a common view that I would have the right to self-defense to kill him, her. Maybe it's a female that's trying to kill me. And that seems to be a pretty accepted view that would be an okay thing to do. So would it be different to say that a child is rapidly growing and is going to crush me? Because still in my house, and I still didn't do anything, and I'm still going to get killed. So, do I have the right to would you consider this self-defense? So, that's kind of a couple of things about the extreme view. Then she moves on to talk about a weakened extreme view. So, you could weaken this view by saying that while abortion is permissible to save the mother's life, it may not be performed by a third party, but only by the mother herself. So you may be able to solve this problem. I don't know. It's a little unclear why this would help that much, but mostly because if the baby was rapidly growing in this room and I told somebody else to kill it, they don't really have a right to be killing. Like, that's not self-defense. I mean, that's other person defense. But if I myself do it, then it's easier to see how it's self-defense. And this is where she makes a big point that we have to keep in mind that the mother and the unborn child are not like two tenants in a small house, which has been rented to both. So in her case, it's not that the mother and the baby inside of her are two tenants and they're both paying rent or whatever. For her, it's different because the mother is the one that owns the house. So this person just kind of came in and is it's not paying rent really or doing anything. It's just taking up I have a hard time saying that. I almost said taking up space, but that feels messed up to even say. But it's taking resources and it's the mother's house. So we can't, according to Thompson, we can't act like both have a right to the same exact amount of right to be where they are. So her third point is that when the mother's life is not at stake, the argument everyone has a right to life, so the unborn person has a right to life, has a stronger pull. So whenever you take out the unique conditions where the mother's life is at stake, the argument at the start, just the basic argument that everyone has a right to life, so the unborn person has a right to life, that's much more compelling. But she states that this argument in and of itself treats life as if it were unproblematic. That it's easy, okay, I'm trying to explain it simply, but she's trying to explain that the right to life is complex. And it is, you can't always just be like, they have a right to life, because what does it mean to have a right to life? does it mean that you have a right to live life forever? As in, you have the right to healthcare to keep you healthy. And if so, then who owes that to you? And if you think about the violinist example again, does the violinist have a right to be saved by you? Like, are you under obligation to owe this violinist their right to life by staying plugged into them? So it's a little more complex than just like they have the right to life, so don't kill them, she would say. So, yeah, some people could say that the right to life only amounts to the right to not be killed by anyone, but it's still complicated because with the violinist has no right against you that you should allow him to continue to use your kidneys. So, yeah, it's basically the point is that it's more complicated than just, oh, they have the right to life, so problem solved. Then we get to the fourth point, which is that in ordinary cases, to deprive someone of what he has a right to is to treat him unjustly. So it would be immoral. So she gives another example. A boy and his brother are given a box of chocolates, and the older brother takes the box and refuses to give the younger brother any of the chocolates. In that case, the older brother is being unjust to the younger brother because the younger brother was given those box of chocolates just as much as the older brother was. So, she says that, suppose that having learned that otherwise it means 9 years in bed with the violinist, you unplug yourself from him. You surely are not being unjust to him, for you gave him no right to use your kidneys. So it's not like the box of chocolates in that you both have an equal right to the chocolate, because you never gave the right to the violinist to use your kidneys. That's yours. You have the right to your kidneys. So that's kind of her point there. So then you can amend the position of the right to life being just not being killed to the right to life consists not in the right not to be killed, but rather in the right not to be killed unjustly. So if it's just, then it's okay, but if it's unjust, then it's not okay. But she says that if this is accepted, the gap in the argument against abortion stares us plainly in the face. It is by no means enough to show that the fetus is a person and to remind us that all persons have a right to life. We need to be shown also that killing the fetus violates its right to life. So, is abortion unjust killing? You then have to prove that it is if you're taking that position. So then she gets to a point that a lot of people make, that we've talked about rape and we've talked about cases of a mother dying. But what about cases where someone willingly engages in intercourse, knowing of the chance that it will result in pregnancy? Wouldn't that person have a responsibility because they knew what they were getting themselves into? We get another example. So suppose that I'm in this room and it is a little stuffy and I'm like, gotta lift the window up. It's nice and chilly out there. It's a good day to do it. So I lift up the window, knowing that there's possibilities of anything happening when I do that. Then a burglar comes in and just hops through the window, steals all my things. And then expects me to, let's see, Yeah. Comes in and takes all my stuff. Was that am I responsible for what they did because I opened the window? Even suppose that I put up bars to keep burglars out, and one of the bars was defective and the burglar still got in. Does that responsibility for that crime lie on me for, I don't know, having defective bars on my windows? The intuition is to say no. If you open your window, it's not your fault that all of your things got stolen. Or if, like, I don't know, it's hard because, like, have you ever, like, I had a friend one time that was like, oh my gosh, like, so much money just got stolen out of my car. Or he said my car got broken into. And I said, oh my gosh, really? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, they broke the window and stuff? And he was like, well, it was unlocked. And I'm like, if it was unlocked, it didn't really get broken into. They just had the opportunity. Obviously, there was still theft. It was still a wrong thing to do, but you wouldn't call it breaking in. Anyways, that's really not as relevant as I thought it was going to be, so we'll just move on. So, if you open a window, are you responsible for any and everything that happens? Most people want to say no. So, in this case, she would, obviously it's an analogy for pregnancy. So, suppose you engage and you even have contraceptives, but they don't work one time, they're not 100% effective. And you get pregnant. She wants to say that that intuition about you not being responsible for the burglar stealing everything you own should be the same intuition that you should have in this case, that you're not responsible for the child coming in. So, that's her argument there. And then we get to the fifth point, which is that there's another argument that we surely must all grant that there may be cases in which it would be morally indecent to detach a person from your body at the cost of his life. So, consider that. So if you say, okay, you have to remain connected to the violinist for 9 months before he's like good to go. Suppose it's actually, all you have to do is be attached to the violinist for an hour, and that's enough. Most people would see that and be like, yeah, you should do that if it's just for an hour. Like, you're going to save someone's life. It's not a big deal. It's not that big of a commitment. Like, that's something that you ought to do. So she takes that and says, even though that's the case, like it's true, that person should say yes for that hour. Even though that's true that they should, it's not unjust if they don't. They don't have an obligation or responsibility to. So it's just like, yeah, it would be the better thing to do to stay connected. So if you look at someone who was raped and you're like, even though you didn't ask for this and you're put in this position, it would probably be the better thing to do to allow this human to live and to, carry it for 9 months. So she would say that even if somebody got to that, even if she got to that point, she wouldn't say that it's unjust if you choose not to carry the child. So, and yeah. Then she concludes with a really interesting last little sentence. She says, at this place, it should be remembered that we have only been pretending throughout that the fetus is a human being from the moment of conception. A very early abortion is surely not the killing of a person, and so is not dealt with by anything I've said here. So, She clearly doesn't think that from conception a fetus is a human being. So her arguments that she's been making, she's been kind of appeasing the against abortioners, but she doesn't actually think that in early pregnancy that the fetus is a human being. So basically she says if it's very early, all of this doesn't apply. It's just simply not the killing of a person. Which is a controversial claim because as she said when she started that people who are against abortion are against it typically because they believe that life begins at conception. So that's an important thing to know where you stand on that. Yeah. So that's her argument. Very famous and yeah, has influenced a lot of writing. For next time we'll talk about so this was in defense of abortion. Next time we'll talk about in not defense of abortion, in offense of abortion. That it's not good. So that'll be fun. I hope that you enjoy your day today, that you don't stress out about the world and all of the evil, but that you find hope. And yeah, anyways, I guess we'll just talk to you later.